G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name's Isaac Butterfield, and in this video I'm going to cover an absolutely insane story. This story, if it doesn't blow your mind, then you are part of the problem. You are part of the issue that is facing the Western world right now that is really affecting us all terribly. We seem to be falling deeper into this hole that is authoritarian speech. We are no longer, it appears, and I know this sounds alarmist and I know this sounds ridiculous, and there'll be people in the comment section like, oh, he's wrong. It's not that bad. Mate, it is that bad. If what is happening apparently in this story, if what is alleged to have happened is true, then we are falling into a pit of despair that we may never crawl out of. Ladies and gentlemen, as someone who gives a shit, and I think you should give a shit as well, this story is completely fucked. All right? Fuck, that's the only way, and I know YouTube will fucking freak out because I said that this early in the video, but how else do I describe a story where a toddler, a baby, someone who was living in a womb not too long ago has been removed, kicked out, fucking sent away from a preschool, a nursery, whatever you want to call it, a daycare, because they have been accused of being transphobic. You ready to hear this story? It's going to blow your mind. Toddler kicked out of nursery for being transphobic as families blast the school's insanity. So there was this big report that was released showing why children were kicked out of schools, nurseries, which means daycares or preschools, and high schools. And basically, the reason this report was done was to show what children are doing wrong and the reasons and the problems that perhaps the younger people are facing in the education system in the UK. Now, the statistics showed that a child, and they weren't able to show the exact age of the child, they were either 3 or 4. At least one, perhaps more, was kicked out because they were being transphobic. Now, I don't know how a child can be transphobic. Now, okay, sure, you may hear a child say some mean things. Maybe they say some shitty things. Maybe they hear some things at home that are particularly rancid. Maybe the parents are racist. Maybe they say some mean things, and then the child repeats that at their place of education or daycare. Now, is that the child's fault? I guess that's a pretty interesting question. Should you blame them? Should you blame them if they swear? Is that the child's fault? Well, obviously not, because they're a fucking child. Yeah, fucking dumb. A toddler has been kicked out of a nursery after being accused of transphobia, new figures reveal. The child, either age 3 or 4, was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity, data for the Department of Education shows. The offences took place in the 2022-23 academic year at a state school. So by that, I would say nursery means kindergarten? Okay, according to the Telegraph. Okay, so for that 1 year, 94 babies, children, were suspended, kicked out, or for at least a couple of days, or permanently excluded, so just banned from the school, for transphobia or homophobia in the same year. This included 10 pupils from year 1, 3 and 3 from year 2, where the maximum age was 7, and 1 child from the nursery age. So the rest of the kids, so the other 90 kids, were a couple of years older, but still in their junior years. So primary school, depending on where you are in the world, up until the age of what, 12? Still, like, why would they be excluded or kicked out or suspended for that shit? Like, I absolutely agree that they shouldn't be hateful. They shouldn't be mean. They shouldn't be transphobic or homophobic. But what are they actually saying? That needs to be taken into account. And I imagine this should happen anyway. The the school's Department of Education that runs the schools, they should be looking into what these kids are actually saying. Now, should they then be cracking the whip at these kids? Should they then be saying, hey, these kids need to learn better? Maybe some of them do. But what are these kids saying? That needs to be answered here, because maybe they're just questioning things. Because I imagine that if these kids said something outrageously transphobic and homophobic, like, remember the signs that they used to put up at soldiers' funerals about the F word, F word must die, that type of stuff, all that bullshit. Well, okay, is that in the same boat as a kid saying there's only two genders because they heard their parents say it? Okay, obviously not the same, but also one's true and accurate. That's interesting, right? What is actually happening with these kids? So the Department of Education has said in response to this that all pupils and staff should feel safe and protected at school and should never face violence or abuse. Now, I want to understand what these people have said, these young babies have said, because that's what matters here. Okay, if they've been directly angry and violent and abusive, then maybe they do deserve a suspension or expulsion, depending on what they've said. But what if they have said something just as plain and simple and accurate as there's men and women and that's it? Because maybe that's all that's been said here. When you say that they have been banned or expelled for transphobia or homophobia, that doesn't really mean anything, because I think a lot of people's minds go straight to the most extreme things that someone could say. Like, if you're a gay person, you deserve to go to hell. If you're a trans person, you deserve to whatever. I think we all jump straight to that conclusion, and maybe that's not accurate at all. And here is a great example of this. In 2022, a Church of England school warned a 6-year-old boy's parents he might be deemed transphobic if he were to question another pupil wearing a dress. I imagine a male pupil wearing a dress. Well, why wouldn't a 6-year-old boy question another little boy wearing a dress? That is not the normal thing that is done. Okay, and I know people freak out when you say normal. Well, okay, if you've got 100 young boys, all 6 years old, 99 of them are all wearing boys' clothes because boys wear boys' clothes, right? It's what we do, okay? And if you don't like it, start your own fucking society in the jungles of the Amazon. If that one young male decides to wear a dress, of course all of the other boys are going to question that young boy. In the same vein that if that young boy decided to wear a clown nose, they'd all go, what the fuck are you wearing, bro? This is from the parents of that young boy who they said if they questioned the dress wearer, they could be locked into the transphobia camp. They claimed in a letter from the school, also added that refusing to use the transgender pupil's adopted name or gender-appropriate pronouns would be considered transphobic behaviour. There's more of this too. A feminist professor, Kathleen Stock, was cancelled and forced to leave the University of Sussex in 2021 because she claimed in 2020 that trans women are women is fiction. Literally not true, and spaces where women undress should remain genuinely single sex in order to protect them. Wow. And last week that university was fined or charged £585,000, which is about $1 million Australian, for failure to uphold free speech, the largest fine ever given to a university. And I guess this is the big part of this story, that is the most important part of this story, is what is this teaching our young people about free speech? Just because someone in their class decides that they want to dress a certain way, are we not allowed, or are our children not allowed? I'm a parent of a 2-year-old. What does this mean for them? What's going to happen in a few years' time when he goes to school? Is that going to be even more widespread? Is that going to travel out of the UK and affect children in Australia and America and all over the world? And by affect, I mean, are they going to be told what they can and cannot say when it comes to things that pertain to accuracy, like the two genders? Like the one thing that, if you recall, this got me kicked off of TikTok with 800,000, nearly 1 million fucking followers on TikTok, when I said that men can't get pregnant. If my son says that at school, is he going to be kicked out of school? Is your son or your daughter? Are they going to be removed from their friends, kicked out of their area, everything they know, they love, that they're used to because they state the truth? This is an attack on free speech. Now, as I said, if they've said something genuinely horrific and horrible, then maybe they should face some punishment, no doubt. But if it's just things that are accurate, then they shouldn't face any punishment at all. They should be cheered. They should be celebrated for thinking logically. Or at least that's what will happen in my house, and I imagine will happen in yours. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be accurate with the things that we say and the way that we think. It's a real shame that this is even a conversation. And how dare the people that are supposed to look after our children attack them with absolute nonsense like this. And that's all it is. It's all lies and deceit and bullshit. Unless it's actually horrible, then maybe you've got an argument. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this whole ridiculous fucking... there's no other word. It's just ridiculous. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Me dick stinks. And I'll see you very soon. Toodaloo, au revoir. Bye-bye.